a few years ago, I couldn't tell you the exact year, our carrier, FrankCrum Insurance, they rolled out Winston that can provide standalone policies. But Quote and Connect is a really, really useful tool because it allows our broker and agency partners to gain access very, very quickly to a competitive PEO quote consisting of HR support, workers' compensation insurance, and then the administrative fee. The fee that admin fee is the fee that the client pays to FrankCrum for the co-employment relationship.
Welcome to Insurance Shoptalk. This is the podcast where the world of commercial insurance gets a little closer to home. I'm your host, Eric Stein, and in every episode, we're taking a deep dive into the insurance industry, from the latest news and trends to in-depth interviews with insurtech experts, carriers, and agency newsmakers. We're covering it all. So sit back, tune in, and let's start the conversation. Well, today we have Jonathon Bates on with us with FrankCrum, who is a PEO, and they also own their own workers' compensation program that's separate from the PEO as well. And so, Jonathon, thanks for coming out. We appreciate you getting on with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat all things PEO here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we'll kind of jump right in. I've known FrankCrum probably since my career started about 30 years ago in the insurance and the PEO industry. You guys are based in Florida, one of the big, very large PEOs. I'll let you get into that detail because I know you've grown quite a bit. And you specialize not only in the blue collar, but gray and white collar with benefits, workers' comp. And again, the neat thing is you guys own your own A-rated carrier, which gives you a lot of control in the many different aspects, in working with clients. And so, yeah, why don't you kind of go into, Jonathon, a little bit about FrankCrum and reminding everyone too what the PEO model looks like.
Sure, yeah, happy to. FrankCrum is a professional employer organization, or PEO. I always joke with everybody. When I started at FrankCrum 5 years ago, I couldn't spell PEO. The concept was incredibly foreign to me, but the more and more I do this, the more and more I realize that it's truly a total business solution for a number of different businesses and industries. But what we do at FrankCrum is we assist with human resources, workers' comp, risk management, employee benefits, and payroll administration. And what that really does, Eric, is it frees up a ton of time for the end user, i.e. the client, makes them more productive, allows them to become more profitable, and obviously reduces their liability and reduces their costs through that co-employment relationship. So it's a really interesting venture and model or business model for a variety of industries, but everything from startups, groups with no prior coverage, all the way to your well-established, white and gray collar companies as well that, are large and been operating for a long time.
Awesome. And how big are, like, do you I hate to put you on the spot, but do you remember how big you guys are with either worksite employees or payroll?
Sure.
How you guys measure?
Yeah, we're up over 5,000 clients now. Our smallest group consists of one employee, and our largest has over 5,000. We average about 120,000 W-2s processed a year. Anywhere from 100 to 110,000. 100 to 110,000 worksite employees a year, roughly, at any given time. So we are growing like a weed. We are still privately held. FrankCrum is a real person. We have no relation to Crum and Forrester. We get that question a lot. But Frank still comes to work every day. Him and his father, Frank Sr., started the business in 1981. And really in the last 20 years, the transition has moved from Frank Jr. To his children, Haley and Matt Crum. So we are continuing to grow. We still operate as a family-owned and operated company, privately held fashion, but we're a big player in the game, which is really exciting as we continue to grow our business. We still operate and focus on the things that have made us successful in the last 43 years of business.
Makes sense. So you'll do, like you said, startups, no prior coverage on the PEO side, where, and they'll, again, but with the PEO, they do have to combine the payroll and the workers' comp on a pay-as-you-go basis. And then I think you mentioned doing some really higher risk things too with the roofing and that sort of industry. And so you want to talk about some more of the industries you're focused on?
Sure. We hit really every shade of color, white, gray, and blue. We'll write startup roofers. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we love them, but we do write them. We write a variety of groups, though, masons, plumbers, electricians, general contractors. And we can write startups and groups with no prior coverage in a variety of states that we are licensed in through FrankCrum Insurance. That's our in-house workers' compensation carrier, which Frank brought to us or created, so to speak, in 2003. So that's just celebrated its 21st year in existence. And as we continue to grow and move into to other states, we're now through FWCI, Frank Winston Crum Insurance. We're in 41 different states, so we are growing, quote unquote, like a weed, and continuing to find success, which is really exciting.
Gotcha. And like, yeah, I think you have other carriers that jump like what Zurich in California, I think.
Yep, correct. Yeah, so we utilize a Zurich partnership. I'm going to correct you. We FWCI, our AM Best rating is trending towards that A paper, and that is also, however, why we have the A-rated partnership with Zurich. Because if a group does need to utilize an A rating for their workers' compensation insurance, we have the ability to flip, which is great. So that partnership is in place so that we don't have to say no to people. And then we do utilize Zurich in California, Minnesota, Massachusetts, and Alaska. Those are the 4 states that Frank Winston Crum Insurance is not yet licensed in. Never say never. We are continuing to evaluate those on a case-by-case basis, year over year, determine when it makes sense for us to get licensed and admitted in those 4 remaining states, and continuing to grow. And then obviously we have the 8 monopolistic states where it is required to get state-funded insurance. And we can still operate in the PEO in those 4 states, no problem. But obviously, we just require proof of workers' comp coverage in those states.
Got it. Got it. Um, and then, so we were speaking earlier that if the client would be open to looking at the PEO model, combining many different vendors, that would give them access really to some of the better pricing that you could offer on the workers' comp and other areas, because they're now part of a pool of hundreds of thousands of employees versus just on a standalone basis on workers' comp, like with your other program.
Correct. Yeah, we purchase through the PEO. The PEO purchases a master workers' compensation policy from our workers' comp carrier, Frank Winston Crum Insurance. So that provides us tremendous flexibility in terms of discounting, and really gives us a lot of flexibility that we can pass on in terms of discounts and pricing tools to our clients. It's not uncommon, Eric, for us to discount startup businesses in the construction related fields. We want to hear a little bit more about safety protocols, procedures, what kind of risk management protocols do they have in place? Do they have written safety programs? And the best part about it is that everything is done under the FrankCrum umbrella, right? Everything is in-house. Our VP of underwriting sits right next to our director of safety and risk management, on floor 2 of building 1 at FrankCrum headquarters in Clearwater. So the in-house communication is really strong. And same goes for things like claims management, payroll processing, HR support, employee benefits, right? It all takes place on our campus at FrankCrum. I am not working at our campus in FrankCrum headquarters. I'm one of probably, I don't know, 30 or 40 remote employees. I live in Connecticut, but for the vast majority of our employee base at FrankCrum, over 400 of the 500 are consistently going into the office every day, which allows for that communication to take place to ensure that we can service our clients in a really strong fashion.
Yeah, and I think talk a little bit about some of the risk management you offer, because many times our agents, that sell just workers' comp on a standalone basis, they're relying on that carrier. I mean, some agents have in-house claims assistance to try to, at least bridge the communication pieces together. But you really do get a partner when you do join the PEO model, because there is a high deductible type arrangement for this.
Sure.
And so really FrankCrum is as really more risk than the client is at risk
Yeah.
on, from a financial standpoint, because there's usually, there could be deductibles, but usually it's very low if there are some versus what you have. So that's the part I think agents like when they use a PEO that I've noticed is that you guys are truly incentivized, unlike the carriers where they're just going to pay claims of, avoid litigation and legal costs and reduce that exposure for them, but it ends up hurting the client because their mod and their premium goes up when they just, pay a claim. So talk a little bit about that risk and claims sort of, mentality. What do you guys really do?
Well, we always want to encourage a safe work environment for a number of reasons. First and foremost, we never want to see anybody get hurt, right? That's the biggest thing. Risk management also it can consist of a lot of different things. It can be, a site visit, a toolbox talk, experience and advice, on OSHA guidance. It can be a blog post. It can be actual written program. But it also can extend into other areas, right? Things like ERISA for medical insurance and 401k administration. Those types of components are really important. COBRA administration, right? Just advising people on best hiring practices, best termination practices. All those components can be risk management. And that's really the value that we bring. First and foremost, also, being a consultative recipient or taking a consultative approach to, the risk advice that we want to offer. We want to hear more about what is currently in place, right? What are groups doing right now that they need to do better? It can be as simple as, showing up and showing up to a site visit, to a roofing group and seeing that their ladders aren't extended at a proper angle, both and the degree, that the ladder is angled, but also extending past the gutter line or the roof line. Fall protection. What have they done in the past to maintain that safe work environment? And where do we go from here, right? Have they had claims? Why have they had claims? That's always the biggest one. People get hurt and injured, right? We understand that nobody is bulletproof. We can't make somebody bulletproof, but the biggest thing is why did it happen? And what can we do to improve it? I think that's really the biggest component. And that's a big responsibility for our risk management department. We have Greg Andress on staff who works with a lot of risk management groups around the country. And then we also have a number of risk managers, on the FrankCrum payroll that do travel around and do site visits and administer, those different components that we talked about in terms of, safety protocols and procedures and reviewing what can be done at a higher level. We'll do phone screenings and surveys, those types of things as well. For new businesses, that's really the biggest one because essentially you have a blank canvas in terms of what you can implement. And I love that angle that we take because people don't know what they don't know, right? Maybe I'm a roofer and I decide that, hey, like I have the ability now to go out and start my own shop, but I have no familiarity with things like OSHA and all the other, safety protocol and programs that are out there. I can go to FrankCrum and their risk management department and get a lot of solid advice, whether it's something as simple as signing up for an OSHA 10 or an OSHA 30 course or actually getting, a lot of those detailed written safety programs put together.
And you
So
guys,
it's a
help like
wide
on,
range.
oh, sorry, to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, that's all I was going to say. I was just going to say it's really a wide range of areas that we can assist with.
Yeah, I was gonna just ask, do you guys offer any like hands-on assistance with a return to work program and things of that
Absolutely.
nature?
Yep, absolutely. Return to work program's big, if I'm a roofer that breaks my leg, I might not be able to fix roofs, but I might be able to, go fold clothes at Goodwill. We have a lot of partnerships in place to assist with those types of return to work programs. Maybe I can answer the telephone and set appointments at my company. So yeah, we do a lot of coordination as it relates to returning to work. Our objective, of course, as both the partner or quote unquote the offsite employer is to get the employee back to work as quickly as possible, and encouraging a safe workplace environment.
Got it. And the client gets their own loss history, even though they're part of your umbrella,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
And
Correct.
they, in some states, they can track their own mod, or you have with a multiple coordinated policy, like California as an example.
Yep.
And then of course, the client slash agent can always submit the loss data to NCCI and so on in certain states to, get a mod promulgated, for the client as well, right?
Yep, we can run test mods, yep, as well, based on experience with FrankCrum to see how that individual group would be performing. Because as you know, technically they would assume the PEO's mod because they would be a part of, that master policy. But again, we have a lot of flexibility in terms of identifying how that individual client is performing as it relates to our experience with them.
Right, right. I remember in the older days with PEO, there was an issue with the client just sort of the mod just went back to, a 1.0 after a few years of being part of the PEO. And now, the loss history is available. Mods are tracked, in a better way with the different bureaus. So it's gotten really a lot more professional. I even noticed like with NCCI, there's descriptions of how the PEO model works within NCCI and about certificates of coverage. And, it gives the agent guidance so that when that client's vendor has a question, as an example, about a certificate or, an endorsement, that they can refer to one of the bureaus and say, look, this is legitimate. This is how it works. Yes, it's different than if a customer had their own policy, a little more, to it, but it is a proper way to cover clients, and therefore it just needs to be explained to the vendor in an email.
And we actually take it a step further, Eric. Because we run into that every day. So we actually provide a letter explaining the co-employment relationship to any of our clients that need that, right? ABC Roofing Company is utilizing a PEO, and through that co-employment relationship, they are covered under our master PEO policy for workers' compensation. At whatever rate, blah, 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 and here's your certificate of insurance with the named insured at the bottom. So we face that all the time, and the last thing that we want to do is be a distraction for any of our clients as they try to go out and make a living, right? They need to bid on jobs, they need to get rewarded, and they need to find competitive jobs to ultimately feed their families and pay their employees. So we don't want to be a hurdle in that challenge that in this day and age already is difficult.
Absolutely. And then also I've gotten, emails from our agents, client service reps, account managers that ask for, oh, I need a copy of the policy so I could set this up in our AMS system.
Yeah.
And in some, like certain states, you are able to provide it, but in other, because it's part of the master, that, typically you could just give a certificate with the policy number and renewal information of the policy as well. And then the proposal itself would have all the rating information on it. They could load in their system. And usually when I explain that to the account managers, they make it their, they'll make a change and just load it that way. So it works.
We also, Eric, we understand that, people, PNC agents specifically, they know what they know, and they don't know what they don't know. And not a lot of them speak the PEO language, right? And, we can provide, because of that, we can provide a redacted, deck page with the information that they need for their internal systems. But to your point, the easiest thing to do is really, really just to get all that information that we've already provided to them through the proposal for the end user, i.e. their client.
Makes sense.
Yep.
And as far as the submission process, it's the same in that we could use the Accord 130, loss history, experience mod, supplementals. You'll have different questions. I know they come back from your underwriting team. You guys are pretty thorough on those, I remember. So we get those answered, and maybe underwriters have a few more questions, but you guys are underwriting and pricing very similar to the way a traditional carrier would.
Yeah, and that's something that our entire company is really proud of. I believe it when it was before. Forgive me if I don't know the exact dates, because it was before my time at FrankCrum. But I think it was 2014. We rolled out Quote and Connect. That is our in-house online portal specifically designed for our broker and agency partners. And then a few years ago, I couldn't tell you the exact year, our carrier, Frank Winston Crum Insurance, They rolled out Winston that can provide standalone policies. But Quote and Connect is a really, really useful tool because it allows our broker and agency partners to gain access very, very quickly to a competitive PEO quote consisting of HR support, workers' compensation insurance, and then the administrative fee. The fee that admin fee is the fee that the client pays to FrankCrum for the co-employment relationship. And it works just like a stoplight. It's great. Green, yellow, red. Green means go. Green are our quick quotes, our auto approvals. You can enter an Accord 130 if you have one ready to go. If you're a broker or agency partners of agency partner, excuse me, of FrankCrum PEO, upload that Accord 130. If you have it ready to go, add those loss runs, answer those additional underwriting questions that generate based on the workers' comp code submitted, right? If I'm a roofer, if I'm submitting a roofing client, rather, we're going to ask those underwriting questions that are going to generate are going to consist of safety protocols and procedures, right? Height exposure, how many stories do they typically reach? Do they do hot torch work? How do they get supplies up on top of the roof? Those types of questions are answered. And then you go through and add those loss runs if available. If it's a startup business, there's a button you can click, or if it's a group with no prior coverage, there's another button you can click for that. And then, based on the workers' comp code submitted and, that loss experience, you're either going to get an automatic pre-approved PEO proposal generated within 60 seconds to your email inbox, or it's going to turn yellow. Yellow means underwriting wants to take a look at it for whatever reason. Maybe they had a high claim, maybe they have a high mod, tell us a story, right? What happened there. And then unfortunately, red is an auto decline, right? Police, firefighters, underwater welders, groups with really high, risk, so to speak, where death could be imminent at any moment. Those are typical auto declines. But the greatest part about our company, in terms of all areas, is our flexibility, right? We essentially have three people we need to make happy: Mr. Crum, Matt Crum, and Haley Crum. And the flexibility that they provide us is really strong. If somebody had a massive injury, what happened? And as I said a few minutes ago, what did they do to correct it? Every day we take cases to Frank and to our underwriting team and explain the situation. They had an OSHA violation because of whatever, and here's what they did to correct it. They had a bad claim because whatever, and here's what they did to correct it. And a lot of the times those declines are overturned and are quoted on our PEO. So it's really, really nice to work for a company that has that freedom and flexibility to make decisions that make sense for our business.
Got it. Yeah, it's great. And then just to kind of set the stage of how we interface, as a wholesaler, we like to keep track of what your changes are in your underwriting model, states that are, approved and new and added. So if the agent's not really doing a lot of the PEO work in PEO, it could be an advantage to go through Insurance Solutions to gain access to you, as well as we do have some other partners in the PEO space and of course traditional work comp. So we're going to look at it from an overall basis. But the good news is that we've got FrankCrum. We know what they're up to because we're working very closely with them on the volume basis. And then hopefully from a service level, be able to get things knocked out quicker if there are any problems or issues, just because we kind of know the people, involved. And then so and if they don't want it, we'll take care. Our underwriters will take care of entering everything in the portals, and they know it well because they do a lot of quotes with you. So just that sort of history with you, and we are only associating ourselves with people like yourself who are very large, stable PEOs. You're one of two I know that own their own program or carrier. So it's we like to in that issue that happened, early on in the industry where you sort of get the smaller player in and then they get over their head in the cost aspects, either with payroll taxes or workers' comp, and they end up sort of going under and leaving everybody kind of high and dry. That's what the agents hate, that, potential of an issue that could happen, unlike a traditional carrier, is not as common. So we try to associate ourselves with doing the due diligence on the bigger, firms like you. And it makes a lot of difference.
Absolutely. I'm not privy to all the bottom line numbers of FrankCrum and the subsidiaries consisting of FrankCrum Insurance Agency, Frank Winston Crum Insurance, and FrankCrum Staffing. But I can tell you that we are growing and we're profitable, which are terrific. Profitability obviously is great because Frank, Matt, and Haley are truly wonderful at reinvesting a lot of money that probably would go into their pocket, reinvesting it back into the company and the employees, which is, in this day and age, almost unheard of. And that's that old school mentality that Frank really brings with, that quote unquote handshake agreement, which I love. And obviously, we're always trying to get better as a company. We're not perfect. I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke and say we are. But what we do is strive for perfection. We have a really loyal employee base, and that to me is one of the greatest parts about our company is that the employees that really that work at FrankCrum really care, and the handful that quote unquote don't care, they don't last long. You know, our client experience department really does a tremendous job at advising new and existing clients on various components as it relates to their account, and creating a lot of customizable solutions. Mike O'Brien is the director of client experience. He and I have a great relationship and are consistently discussing new ways that we can assist, when a client has a question or concern. We're always trying to get better. The company internally does regular leadership meetings. They do regular summits in-house and town hall meetings as well, because again, our objective is to remain profitable, continue to grow, and continue to serve our clients in a way that kind of has that old school mom and pop feel as we continue to grow. We're a big player in the game, but like I said, we still have that small business mentality.
P&C agents, have you run into Byberg, which is a Berkshire Hathaway company quoting workers' comp for either your prospects or clients? Well, great news. Insured Solutions, a national MGA, has an appointment that is set up to allow you to quote, bind, and service Byberg at your agency. And the coverage is in all states. It's A-rated. Startups are even accepted. There's $125,000 maximum premium. And some of the tough industries they write are construction, transportation, that includes towing and parcel delivery, manufacturing, security guards that are armed and unarmed, motor mediation, and many more. So go to our website at insuredsolutions.net, click the Get Appointed link. We'll get you logins for you and your team, and can set up a webinar for training if you'd like. Also, feel free to email info@insuredsolutions.net, and I can handle the submission myself, or call 770-402-5343. Be glad to speak to you and give you more detail. Thanks. That's excellent. And then as far as the process, like what we like to tell agents would be, get the submission in. If there's any way that you could ask the client, would they be open to a proposal for the PEO model that would combine the payroll and the workers' comp, HR, and the other risk management services. Some will have some, unfortunately, bad experience from a past issue and say immediately no, or may not understand, or maybe the agent has that kind of background with it. But most of the time, if everyone's kind of more up to speed in the last, let's say, 8, 9, 10 years of what the PEO model looks like, and it should be something that a client should, at least get a proposal for, unless there's just some reason they cannot make this sort of change. But long story short, get the proposal, information in, ask client if they're open to it. We then get back some pricing back into the agent. Myself and or the staff at our Insurance Solutions all have backgrounds with PEO and traditional work comp, so we're going to be able to kind of guide through the questions as we discussed them already into some of the cases here. And then as early as possible, even while the agent, I recommend this, is still waiting on all the carriers to quote, because that's the game. The carriers wait to the last
Sure.
minute to get renewals or quotes. So while that's going on, like in the best case, it'd be awesome to have like 20, 30 days in advance, start a conversation. If the client has said, yes, I'm open to it. And then we set up a time either with Jonathon and payroll, teams to sort of walk through, okay, here's how you're doing payroll now. This is how it would work with, the PEO. And from there, make sure the client starts to get more comfort in it. And what doesn't work is, unlike with work comp, where you can just give them the number the day before the renewal and say, sign here. That doesn't really happen well in a PEO proposal stage. They get freaked out if that's the first time they've ever even heard about it, or how,
Sure.
have met you and your team, right? So I would say, would you say like at least have at a minimum a couple of weeks to kind of help with, getting everyone acclimated and turn around the onboarding if you can, or as a minimum?
Yeah, and it's such a great question, Eric, and it's a really broad question because, as you know, when you sell PEO, no two sales processes are the same, right? Ideally, you have enough time to review, get target pricing, present to the client, get the employees onboarded, and get them ready to process their first payroll. Um, I always tell our brokers and agents, and various wholesalers like Insurance Solutions, the more time, the better. All right. If you have a payroll over $1 million, you know, 3 to 4 weeks lead time is great if there are no medical benefits involved. If there are medical benefits involved, we need to start quoting 60 days out and start the enrollment process 30 to 45 days out. And really, the primary reason is we don't want to be a distraction for anybody, right? We don't want to cut into their daily routine. That's number one. Number two is if you have a payroll between 500,000 to a million, roughly, 10, 20 employees, typically 2 to 3 weeks is plenty of lead time. And then anything really under, that 500 or 10 employee group, we can typically get up and running in a week to a week and a half, no problem. We have a terrific IT team at FrankCrum in the sense that they've built, Quote and Connect, which I mentioned as well. They also built the My FrankCrum online portal that we like to refer to it as. So it does make the onboarding process very seamless. Further to it is, our clients are not left alone to manage the process. They have a dedicated team, starting with our pre-enrollment process. Then they move to, being introduced to their payroll coordinator and onboarding specialist, as well as their account manager, right? So they know who to reach out to when they need assistance. There's nothing worse than getting transferred or to those automated answering services asking you to spell your last name, right? It drives me crazy. We have direct contacts in each of our departments. And what I always tell our agents and brokers, though, is I understand that you maybe have had a bad experience with a PEO before, right? But it's kind of like driving a car or purchasing a car, right? I've had great experiences with Ford, so I'm going to stick with Ford. Okay, I understand that. But Chevy also makes great cars too. Maybe you should test drive one and check it out. Or I've had a bad experience with Ford, so I'm never going to go back to them. Okay, I understand, but what are you driving now, right? We're not different. We're not identical to every other PEO. There are 487 professional employer organizations operating in the United States, and you can make an argument that every single one of them is unique. And the reason is because they all have different leadership structures and different values. So that's a big component of it. And I also say you got to involve your broker manager at FrankCrum, i.e., someone like me, in the presentation. Let us be involved. Let us lead the discussion and outline who we are, what we do, and how we do it. And the biggest reason for that is again, standalone workers' comp is a little bit easier to sell than PEO. And further to it, a lot of times because we're trained in it, the broker manager team at FrankCrum, it's very common for us to lead a proposal review and identify 2, 5, 10 more things or components that we can assist with as it relates to HR, workers' comp, risk management, employee benefits, and payroll administration. And that almost every time leads to saving money for the client, which is awesome. So you got to let us kind of lead the discussion. It also allows the broker or agent to learn, right? Oh my gosh, like look at this new opportunity for me, to increase my revenue stream at my agency, right? Our commission structure is different than standalone comp, and is typically anywhere from 2 to 5 times higher. So, and it's residual commissions with no volume commitment. So selling the PEO model is, especially FrankCrum, it brings tremendous value for everybody involved. The broker, the agent, the end user, wholesalers like Insured Solutions, as you know, having seen the value. It's a really, really exciting time to get involved and open your eyes to what FrankCrum and the PEO relationship can do for you and your clients. It really is.
Absolutely. And then the cool thing is that once the client gets on board, there's usually some hiccups and issues because there's always some challenges because you're getting used to new systems and people. But then working through that, you get them fixed. You can always get checks cut, quickly. If there's a mistake or error, redone. So the employee's always going to get their paychecks and properly, and coverage is going to be in place. So it's just working through the honeymoon stage, which could turn into a divorce sometimes in the beginning, but then get right back on to a good stable relationship once things get on track. And then the nice thing for the agent is that they don't have to deal with certificates anymore. You guys are dealing with the risk and claims. The payroll, the agent doesn't have to get involved with. Only that you guys you do a nice job of keeping the agents in the loop when there's issues, when there's about to be a termination for non-payment, things like that. You guys have good communication that's automated in some cases, and others, a good team that makes sure that we're all aware so that we could jump back in and try to help mitigate the issue that is a partner with you on that if the client's just not getting the communication they need, So anyway, long story short, like you said, more money, easier, and the retention rate versus, let's say, the traditional work comp is around over 90+% in the industry.
Yeah.
Would you guys say you're in that same ballpark?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We have our customer satisfaction survey is over 9 out of 10, which is awesome. And I think we are right at 90% in terms of retention year over year, which is terrific, and that 10% usually, is the result of a high claim or multiple claims, right? Where, hey, we 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 gave you a lot of advice, and for whatever reason it didn't work, and that's fine. That's insurance, right? Um, but the other component that's great is, we really have two audiences, Eric, right? We have the client, right? But we work over 90% of our business, I believe it is through our broker and agency partners, right? And wholesalers like Insured Solutions. And we want to make you guys, our agency partners, more productive too, right? So we're able to issue certs. We're able to eliminate audits, right? There's no year-end audit in the PEO relationship with FrankCrum, right? It's pay as you go. They're reporting the payroll each pay cycle to us. We're calculating the workers' comp premium, and we're invoicing that as a part of the payroll processing. Same goes for obviously the FICA tax, the Social Security, Medicare, state and federal unemployment. All those components we are handling. We're handling the quarterly tax filings for the employees. So those are 940 and 941s, the year-end W-2 reporting, right? We are truly making the client more productive, as well as our broker and agency partners, right? Through our in-house proprietary online portal that we call My FrankCrum, a client can go in there and issue their own certificate of insurance, right? We have a certificate wizard that makes your life as an insurance agent constantly turning out certs way easier because you can now focus your attention on other components as it relates to your business. So it's really, really helpful to be able to offer solutions, not just for our clients, but also for our broker and agency partners. It's like I said, it's a really exciting time for the industry. And you know, having no volume commitment from us to our agency partners is also, you know, a huge win.
And we didn't talk a lot about it, but in general, if the client is not willing to look at the PEO, we can, in certain states, as you mentioned, certain industries look at the standalone work comp, with Frank Winston Crumb's program, and, get potential proposals for that as well.
Absolutely.
I think you mentioned the pricing probably won't be as attractive as it would be under the PEO. But again, if the client is just really saying no way, no how, it's not a waste to get us the submission to get to you, so we could at least look at both options. And we have other options on standalone too. So again, it just makes it easier on the agent to have this one process to go through, hopefully with us. And then, we can look at you for PEO and look at Frank Crum for the standalone piece.
100%. Our carrier, Frank Winston Crum Insurance, Matt Crum, our president, and Nick Houston is our VP of Business Development over at FWCI. So we can offer standalone workers' comp in variety of states. Obviously, Florida, Georgia, are two of the big ones, being headquartered in Florida. But to your point, the commission is not as competitive, and as is the PEO, and the pricing is not necessarily as competitive through the PEO for a lot of the reasons that we touched on. But again, that's a part of our flexibility that I've alluded to a few times here, is being able to all operate under one umbrella and find a solution, most importantly, that makes sense for the client. Sometimes standalone is better than PEO, and sometimes PEO it makes more sense for the client, right? But I think the best part about the solution is you have both options under the same company, right? Under the Frank Crum umbrella, and you can really figure out what makes sense. We have the ability to educate and consult with the broker, the agent, and ultimately the client to figure out what they need and how we can fix those challenges they have.
Yeah, and like in some cases, what I've noticed with it, again, dealing with agents is that if they haven't really dealt much in the PEO world, you want to look at the overall cost for the PEO model. And you've got, as you mentioned, it combines administration and the work comp together. And then, we usually like to give that as one number just so the agent can kind of quickly compare. And many times, unless the client's got this ridiculous high mod or something, or very high claims, that uh, there's going to be a cost associated with the PEO above and beyond compared to just a workers' comp standalone quote, because there is a cost for the payroll, there is a cost for risk management, HR, if they're using benefits, the benefit administration as well. So, and EPLI, things like that, that are built in, to the program to consolidate 5, 6 different vendors into one. So, so many times the agents don't really compare it to, let's say the client's already using ADP and they have, 100 employees. Well, that's like a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 bill they're getting from ADP every year that you kind of have to tack back on to this proposal. So now if it's 100,000 for the comp, we might be coming in at 130, but maybe their comp is 100 and then their payroll service is 50. So we're saving 20 grand. So there's always these ways to look at it, and then sometimes, like I said, they have the high mod. You may be lower than their 80, just the workers' comp by itself, which is a huge win, to get all these services for no additional cost. And if they're using ADP as that example, they don't have to pay that bill anymore because it's all combined, with the PEO. So I always like to put that out there because it helps the agent sort of compare it properly. They don't just completely, nix the idea because it's a little more expensive just in work comp by itself.
And that's where it's so important for the broker manager or folks like me at Frank Crum to aid in the presentation, because at Frank Crum yeah, we might be in some cases $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 more expensive compared to that standalone workers' comp policy. But you got to remember what you're getting, right? You're getting a dedicated representative for HR support. You're getting a dedicated claims administrator and risk manager. You're getting access to the same payroll processor and manager. You're getting an account executive, right? I mean, something as simple as updating an employee handbook, right? That could be thousands of dollars for a company. And because they have to pay an employment lawyer and they're in 3 states and they need advice on all 3 states, what have you, right? Other things like, turnover, right? High turnover costs businesses a lot of money. What's your current state unemployment tax? If you're in a state where the unemployment tax rate falls on the PEO, you get to utilize our rate, which, almost always is more competitive than the rate you're currently paying. So you're going to save money there, right? Maybe you're looking to hire a full-time HR manager, and that's great. We want to be that individual's partner and assist them, but there are so many components to it that we have the ability to fact find and assist with. So yeah, I always say if you're just looking at bottom line cost, we're probably not going to be the answer because that's just one facet of it. It's really important that you understand what you're getting through the PEO or co-employment relationship, right? Another objection we hear all the time, Eric, that I understand, but it kind of drives me crazy, and it's probably because of some of the sour taste in prior years that PEOs have had, and that's well, we don't want to move to a PEO because we don't want to control. We don't want to lose control of our employees or our business. And that couldn't be further from the truth, right? Essentially, it's an on-site employer and an off-site employer, right? As the off-site employer, it's a transfer of liability to the off-site employer, i.e. the PEO, FrankCrum, for reporting those payroll taxes to the IRS, right? Ensuring compliance in all the different states and really being a strong sounding board on essentially what's right and what's wrong from a legal perspective versus the on-site employer that is the business owner and maybe it's an electrical company and he or she is really strong at electrician work, right? He is giving direction every single day to his or her employees, right? He's determining who he's hiring, he's determining who he's firing, how much he pays them. Billy, you go here, Susie, you go here. Here's the updates, right? So it's a big component. Essentially, on-site employer maintains full direction and control over his or her business. Off-site employer, i.e. FrankCrum, takes care of all those HR related tasks and functions that most business owners have no idea that they are responsible for until they get into business for himself or herself.
That makes sense totally. Now, I'm glad you kind of went through that to help, agents understand the differences of just work comp by itself versus this
Sure.
program. It's a little more to it. So that's why I always like getting your team and the payroll team on to do a mini presentation. And then you guys are very professional and you exit and let that agent now have their time to discuss with the client by themselves, what's good for the client. Because that client might open back up to the agent and tell them,
Yeah, their client, that agent, that broker, whoever, they have the relationship, right? We're not looking to build a wall and box them out. We tell all of our brokers and agency partners, your client is your client. Our objective at FrankCrum is to make your life a little easier and service them better. That's it. We expect that consultative approach. We expect that support and guidance, and we want to do right, as I said, by not just the client, but also our agency, our agency partners.
And then why don't you talk a little bit about, because I know you have said you're very strong right now on some of the benefits side. I know a lot of the agents don't, many agents have some, employee benefit divisions within their agency or folks that handle that. However, the cool thing is you'll act as that conduit and handle the enrollments, handle presentations, quoting for like your Aetna program. Why don't you discuss that in the 401k, things of that nature?
Yeah, absolutely. Our benefit service or benefit department is an optional service. We have a master health policy with Aetna that renews on the 1st of November every year. And that's exciting because people now have access to really, cost-effective health insurance, just like the PEO through the medical benefits and the PEO relationship. we're essentially buying down the rates for the end user. So, some small to mid-sized businesses have the ability to offer really cost-effective medical insurance and ancillary insurance to their employees at a significantly lower cost than maybe they've been quoted before. FrankCrum Insurance Agency was born in 2008. That is, a benefit administration company or agency at FrankCrum. And it also allows us flexibility to look at other carriers too. Typically, the most competitive rates for our medical insurance will fall under our Aetna master policy, but we have the ability to look at open client-sponsored open market plans in a variety of locations as well, for whatever reason, right? Maybe a company has had a bad experience with Aetna for whatever reason, or maybe Aetna isn't as strong in one area as another carrier. Whatever it is, we have the ability to solve those problems. And then the ancillary lines, including 401k. We have 401k partnership with Slavic 401k out of South Florida. Terrific 401k provider. As a FrankCrum employee, I'm starting to see, the benefits of utilizing the 401k as I, plan for my retirement in, hopefully, 20, 25 years, something like that. But we have ancillary lines typically through MetLife, things like vision insurance, dental, accident plans, cancer plans, disability, both short and long term. Just a wide range of products that clients can offer to their employees at no cost to the business unless they wish to contribute. Meaning they can be 100%, our ancillary lines can be 100% employee contributory. I'll give you an example, Eric. Maybe you're I don't know, a mason, right? Small mom and pop local mason. You've got 4 employees, and I work for you. And I walk into your office, Eric, and I say, "Hey, boss, I need a dental plan for my kids. My kids, they need help. They need regular cleanings, whatever. What can you do?" And your response is simple: "No problem. Call our benefit account specialist at FrankCrum. They're going to assist you." I call the benefit account specialist at FrankCrum that manages your masonry company. I explain who I am, and I say, "I'm interested in learning more about the dental programs you offer." He or she explains the product offerings through MetLife that they have, the price points. They take that coverage, they assist me with the application, they bind the coverage with MetLife, and then they send the payroll deductions over to the payroll coordinator at FrankCrum, letting them know that John now is on a family dental plan at X amount of dollars per month. What that does for you as the boss of a small 4-employee masonry company is make you a more attractive employer without costing you a dollar unless you want to contribute to it. Huge advantage, especially for a lot of the artisan contractors, right? Our accident plans, our cancer plans, groups that have, a typical need for, potential injury and exposure, right? Our disability programs, they're really, really beneficial for those small to mid-sized companies at a fraction of the cost if you were to open, a policy with specific to your employees with a major carrier.
And so you guys administer everything, enroll everything.
Again, all under the umbrella. Yep.
Reconciling the invoices, right, for the
It's
carriers. I mean, all that mess that,
yeah.
the agent has to deal with for a client who, when they do offer benefits in their agency, you guys are taking it over. And again, it's all part of this pay-as-you-go billing with the workers' comp, the payroll services, HR, risk. I mean, everything's all combined in one nice, neat package.
HR simplified. HR
Yep.
simplified and everything related to it. Absolutely. Yep.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, no, this has been fantastic. Is there anything else, Jonathan, you wanted to get across about any of the services, or we kind of
No,
covered a lot of ground?
I really appreciate the time. If any of your agency or listeners are interested in learning more about FrankCrum, they can go on to frankcrum.com/broker. Obviously reach out to you, reach out to me, but really appreciate the time, appreciate the opportunity to educate you guys a little bit more on FrankCrum, our service offering. And ultimately the value that we bring to the end user, your clients, but also to you guys as agency owners and brokers and administrators. So thank you very much, Eric.
And yeah, kind of bringing again back to IS in the fold. Happy to help to guide this process. Again, if one of the agents is just a very high touch specialist in the PEO world, I think it'd be better to maybe get direct with you. If an agent is just doing a few, deals here and there in the PEO space, we could be very helpful, I think, for that. Just so that we
Absolutely.
can learn you and about another 8 different products, we can handle that for them. Whatever's best for the agent. And again, what I like about what you guys are doing is that we have both options with the standalone and the PEO models. You're going to look at what's best for what the client wants and their needs and the agents want. So that was always very helpful. You're one of the few that we work with actually that can do that. So that's why we like working with you guys, on that note. And again, your communication and service for our clients have been really good. And letting us know what's going on and the issues. Like you said, you're very agent forward. A lot of the firms are not. That's why they engage us, the PEOs, because we can be that help that conduit. But you guys do a good job anyway. So it makes it easy on us and the agent, too.
I appreciate you saying that. Again, I appreciate the time. We're always looking to do right by everybody involved as best we can. As I said before, we're not perfect, but we certainly strive for perfection.
Absolutely. If anybody has questions for me, it's shoot me a note at eric.stein, eric.stein at insurancesolutions.net. And my phone number direct is 770-402-5343. Be glad to answer any questions you might still have as well on this or anything else to do with work comp. And we do offer some package lines too. So glad to help you there. But hey, have a great rest of your day. We really appreciate it. And I'll be, of course, I'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks. Thanks again for tuning in to Insurance Shop Talk. If you enjoyed our deep dive into the latest trends, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Until next time, I'm Eric Stein, and this has been Insurance Shop Talk.